The FAA 107, what that is if you're not familiar with it, this went into effect August back in 2016, so this was 9 years ago. And actually, September 1st was the first time you could actually take the test. And this was a standardized test to get your license, essentially is what it is. It's actually a certificate, but gives you the opportunity to fly a drone commercially and make money. You have to have your Part 107 to do it. Now, the good news is it's fairly easy to take the test. And it's something you got to do, so just suck it up and do it, okay? Most people, I recommend that you study probably about somewhere between 9 and 12 hours and break that up over 3 or 4 days, 3 to 4 hours at a time. Go through and study. I recommend you schedule your test, and in 3 or 4 days before your test, just study and then go in and take your test. Now, you'll have to go into a physical testing center. There are over 500 locations that you can choose from. And the good news is you don't have to have a pilot's license. That's a myth that people had, that, oh, I've got to get my pilot's license first and then I get my drone license. And that was perpetuated by the FAA early on, because that was one of the rumors they were tossing around. And they thought, well, heck, if we make everyone get their pilot's license before they get their drone license, they'll be better drone pilots. But the reality is that's not but the great thing about this is the 107, it mostly ended the confusion, the public perception about flying a drone commercially. And now, because very few people, there was a lot of confusion around if you could fly legally or not or whatever, and now you can. I mean, it just is pretty easy. Now, we have to follow some rules under the 107. Now, keep in mind, all of these rules are waiverable. And what I mean by that is there are exceptions to these rules. If you have a project or a mission or a flight that is something beyond what we're going to talk about, you can get a waiver to fly outside of the rules. But just as the license stands, the 107, these are the rules we have to follow. So number one, we have to be able to fly VLOS. So we have to visual line of sight. We have to be able to see the drone with our naked eye. And the reason for that is if we're flying it, and what happens if the screen goes blank and we've lost GPS? If we can't see the drone, how are we going to get it back safely? Well, you're not. I mean, you're just not. So as long as we have visual line of sight, if the screen goes blank, we're looking at a blank screen and we've lost GPS, well, we can see it and we can manually fly it back over to us. The other thing which is good is we don't have to have a visual observer. It's not required unless we're flying FPV. So if you're flying FPV, that just means that you've got the goggles on and you're flying what's called first-person view. So all you see is what the camera sees. So you can't see what's under you or on top of you or to the left or right or what's behind you, but you can just see what the camera sees. So it's an immersive, almost video game-like experience doing that. But if you're flying FPV, you have to have a visual observer, because if your screen goes blank and you don't know where the drone is, you peel off your goggles, you're blinded for like 60 seconds because the sun, you were in this dark little container and now all of a sudden the sun is just blinding you and you have no clue where your drone is. You're looking all over for it, trying to get a bearing on it. So that's where your visual observer can point out you're over here, or you need to reduce your altitude or move forward or pull the stick back or right or whatever. Now, this is actually from the rule book. It cracks me up. It says you can only operate from a moving vehicle if you're in a sparsely populated area. So technically, I guess, like downtown Atlanta is probably sparsely populated compared to like Manhattan, right? As far as density. But again, it's just kind of one of those gray areas there, which is kind of funny. Now I love this. This is also in there. It says that you must yield the right of way to any other aircraft, manned aircraft that are bigger than you, but the manned aircraft that are smaller than you, they must yield to you, which I don't think any of us are going to be flying drones bigger than manned aircraft, but if there are any that are smaller than you, they gotta yield to you. All right, and then we're also limited to a maximum altitude of 400 feet. And the reason that is we can fly up to 400 feet. Manned aircraft, they have a floor of 500 feet, so at the lowest point. So they cannot fly under 500 feet. We can't fly over 400 feet, so we have this nice little buffer of safety there. Now, the exception to that for us is we can fly up to 400 feet above and around any structure that we're flying over. So if there's a building and the building is 300 feet above the ground, we can actually fly 700 feet above the ground 400 feet above that building. And we can do that if the building's here, we can do that up to 400 feet around the building. Now, once we get 5 or 6 or 700 feet, once we get more than 400 feet away from the building, we have to drop down to 400 feet above the ground, AGL, okay? But we have that benefit, whether it's a tree, a building, a mountaintop, a radio tower, whatever it is. All right. And then now also, if we can't fly within 5 miles of an airport without getting air traffic control authorization. Now, the good news is there are apps that you can get. Basically, you just click them and you can get, it's called Lance, and we can get basically instant authorization in just a few seconds. Depending how close you are to the airport, you might have a ceiling. Instead of 400 feet, it might be 300 feet or 200 feet or 150 feet. But the closer you get towards the airport, then usually the lower ceiling that you're going to get approved from. But at least we can get that done kind of all instantly, which is pretty cool. And then we're limited to a maximum speed of 100 miles per hour. So again, if you need to go more than 100 miles an hour, or you need to fly at 10,000 feet, or you need to fly at an airport because you were hired there to do something, you can get waivers to do all that stuff. But just the way it is, these are kind of the rules that we have to do. So the other things is we can't fly near stadiums, sporting events, or groups of people, also military bases. And if your drone has to weigh less than 55 pounds. So this is going to be probably a trick question for you guys that haven't taken your test yet. Not 55 pounds, less than 55 pounds. Okay, so you might circle that, put a note on that. Now you got to be 16 years or older to get your FAA 107, and you are required as the PIC, the pilot in command, to do a pre-flight inspection before every flight. But the good news is you can do that. And then if there ever is an accident, an incident, or something that results in serious injury to somebody or loss of consciousness, or property damage of $500 or more, you have to report it to the FAA within 10 days of the incident. Now, it doesn't count your drone. If you have a $5,000 drone and you total your drone, but nothing else is damaged, you don't need to report it. But if you accidentally crash into, and break out the back window on a Ferrari, and it's the windshield's more than $500, which I guarantee it will be, you got to report it. Okay, so just keep that in mind. Or if anybody gets hurt. So bottom line, all this means is that there's just no careless or reckless operation. Right? Like I mentioned, the 107, it's mandatory if you're going to fly commercially, which you guys all are. So you just do it. And good news is over 90% of people that take the FAA 107 test, they pass it on their first attempt. Bottom line, at the end of the day, it's just a card. Anybody can get it. I mean, and the part that cracks me up is there's no proficiency test. There's no flight test. So you're licensed to fly commercially with no test that you even know how to fly, right? Which is crazy. But anyway, we're cowbell red flag stage right now. That's going to change in the future, I'm sure, but we're not quite there yet. Okay, so bottom line, you're going to go out and get your 107, and you'll be good. Now, you guys that have the video course, the great news about that is everybody that when you buy the 107 video course and you go through my video course training that I provided, I guarantee you'll pass it on the very first time. And if you don't, for any reason, then not only will we refund you what you paid for the test, now many of you got that for free with the VIP, but we'll also pay for your, we'll pay for your next 107 test for you to retake it, which by the way is $175 at most places for you to take it now, okay? So all you VIPs, you guys have the 107 video course, so go through and prep for that and you guys will be golden, okay? Hey, thanks for watching. Be sure and click the button below to subscribe and be sure and hit the thumbs up button. All right, for more free resources to help you build your drone business, visit thedroneboss.com in our resources section. To fast track your success, be sure to check out our 3-day live total immersion event at Drone Command Live. You can click somewhere around here or below in the description. All right, take care and fly safe.